Don't forget to follow My Warp Life on Instagram to hear when new things are coming and enter one of our monthly giveaways.
That's right. You can win a t-shirt, a beanie, or even a bottle of Kevin Lyman hot sauce. So don't forget, if you have any questions for us or topics that you want us to discuss, make sure you text us at 818-863-6445.
And if you enjoy listening to the conversations with our guests, you can hear the full versions of all the interviews on our Patreon for only $5. We donate all the proceeds to our favorite charities, and you can cancel at any time.
All right, now let's get into it.
Hey, Tony, Poco's hottest hot sauce.
I love the hot sauce.
Ooh, Cassie. This reminds me of the 2001 Warp Tour, when we were hanging out by the tour buses, eating those loaded nachos, and Glenn Danzig walked by chowing down on a handful of chili dogs, and then he grabbed a nacho, we started chatting. It was so cool.
What on earth are you talking about, Bonnie?
And then Nick from 311 heard me singing, plucked me up from the crowd, and asked me to join the band because my vocals were so on point. I never got back to him.
That never happened, Bonnie.
I remember it like it was yesterday. And then...
Wait a minute. Did you say Warp Tour 2001? Wasn't that the year you met those hippies that gave you that bag of chocolates I told you not to eat?
And then I talked for hours with Cool Keith, and he totally missed his set. And I said, I'm so sorry, this is so not cool, Keith. And then we laughed and laughed because Cool Keith, get it?
That must have been when I found you talking to that palm tree on the side of the stage.
Yeah! Warp Tour 2001. Now that was one for the books. More sauce?
Wait a minute. Isn't Glenn Danzig vegan?
Get Poco's hot sauce today and make all your meals taste even better.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Tony.
We're doing this again.
Yes, we are. And this is like, I left you hanging on the last episode.
You did version 2. I've been waiting to hear exactly what's going on.
It's only been a couple years and, learning about, originally it was like, okay, we got to learn about crypto and blockchain.
Yeah, on Saturday Night Live last night, just about the conversations that people are sick of having. And one of them was blockchain. If I have to be at the party and have another conversation about blockchain, here we go.
I know, and it's one of those things. But as it evolves, I think we're starting to see that, and the more I hear about it is like community. How do you hyper-service a community? And we will be getting into it this episode, like how it all, came down with Kaves, like at the end of this, because it was crazy.
He worked and struggled for a long time throughout his life. I mean, a long time coming.
Yeah, his NFT drop did very, very well. I don't know if you know. We should just, can I tell you what it did?
Well, I mean, are we talking very well like I'm going to go buy a Corvette or very well I'm going to retire?
No, we're going to go we don't have 401ks in our industry. We know that. There's no retirement fund.
There's no employee match
There's
program.
no match program in art. In grad, you have to make it. And I just remember a few weeks ago, my phone just it was Kaves. And usually he calls me when the basement of the restaurant's flooded or, something's going on and we're talking. But I was in class, so I was worried because it rang a couple times and I didn't want to pick it up in class. And I stepped out and I called him and he goes, my NFT drop went up and it did over $2 million in the first drop. And then he goes, they're going to be doing a secondary thing on something called the Dutch auction. That's taken it well over $3 million.
That's great.
Which, to me, was wow.
That's bananas.
If you just knew this family and you knew how hard they worked and everything they've ever done together, Donna and Kaves and the kids and the family and supporting and all the family
Good
they do.
for them.
So all of a sudden, it was I said, don't let the kids know. Hide the money. This is you and Donna's retirement
this is your
fund.
Money. They got to make their own money.
Yeah, this is going to be your retirement fund. So I thought it would be great with this episode to kind of talk about where we're evolving, because I'm seeing it evolving, and there's people I know that are really doing well, and we want other artists to understand, because I think a lot of artists and a lot of musicians and things are scared of it, especially from our generation.
For the average layman, you just getting your head around Bitcoin was hard enough. Now we're talking NFTs. And it's an evolving, moving target that everybody's trying to figure out.
I reconnected with an old friend, Pep Williams, for this episode, who is famous from the old Dogtown Z-Boys skating scene in Venice, who went on to be a great photographer, and what he's been doing. And Tatiana DeMaria, who's toured on Warped Tour, a great musician. She writes songs, but now she runs her own NFT awareness on TikTok.
Well, I didn't know that.
And she's
Cool.
doing that. And then, of course, we retouched base with Matthew Dweck from Doodle Lab. So, let's grab Pep. Like, he had a pretty good explanation of kind of where we're at with NFTs.
The way I kind of break it down is I say, think of it as like a ledger to like the blockchain. Basically, it's tracking from the owners and like who's ever been a part of it. Like buying a house, who's always lived there and if it's the original owner and so on and so forth. And also I explain it almost like a registered trademark in a way, or this is like the authentic one, like from the source. And then they're like, okay, I get it. I understand, but can I just pull it off of the internet? And I said, sure, you can do those, but this is directly from the original and it goes to Jay's son and it helps keep his legacy, basically. And then with my signature on it, it gives it value. So if you do want to sell that digital or physical piece later, you can make some money off of it and it stays on the chain.
So Pep was getting ready. He's releasing a drop of Jay Adams, which was another Dogtown Z-Boys skater. Right. Legendary, hardcore, very complicated human being. Anyone that knows Jay, it was like he could be one of the most sensitive people in the world or one of the most violent people I've ever met in the world. And he did some photographs of Jay, who has passed away now. So he's created this photograph of his photograph going to be an NFT and raise funds for the family.
Right on.
He left his family. And now he's trying to explain this to the artists of that scene, the suicidal tendencies, some of these other people who have some really unique things that for a certain collector could be very valuable.
And the way he explained blockchain very simply, NFTs and how they hold their value and how they have a unique signature. Later, I'm hoping to get into, we're always talking about how the artists can create an NFT based on their work and sell it to raise funds to support their art. But we never really talk about the owners of the NFT and then how they can in turn either sell it later at a profit and or license that NFT to be used in media in some way to make revenue off of it. Because if it truly has value, then there's got to be different ways to monetize that value.
There's ways to monetize it. And it's also like just in our day-to-day lives where I've learned recently in the last few weeks and in the next few years, your like home deed will be an NFT.
Right.
And your car, the title of your car will be an NFT and transfer to you. So it's going to simplify a lot of things we do, and there will be a lot less questions sometimes of who owns the deed or who owns the title. Can you imagine Judge Judy's going to be sitting there rapping with like, where's the NFT
I think we're on the cusp of it right now, certainly. I mean, it's the analogy would be, the first time you saw dial-up internet. What is this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things to embrace. And I think the person who really, really, to me, is someone I've been very close to for a long time, Tatiana DeMaria.
I have met her in person and have talked to her about this. This girl is brilliant.
Let's see how Tat got engaged in this world.
For me, it's always about helping. The reason I made music in the first place was because I had such bad anxiety and depression as a 12-year-old that I was like, oh my God, it's the cure to everything. I need to do this for everyone. It felt very pure, but I think that it's easy to get caught up in a lot of shit. I feel a lot of fulfillment giving, but I think in the end of the day, too many artists suffer. And when artists suffer and can't create music because they spend all their time trying to make money, we get shit music and shit art. And to me, the way societies and governments work, the way countries tend to work, is the populace feels something. Musicians and artists are part of that population. they are the megaphones to express what is happening. The more they express, the more there's momentum that build around these ideas that are already true in society. The more the momentum builds, the more people gather. The more people gather, the more they demand change. The more they demand change, the more they show it in their consumer behaviors, right? The more they show it in their consumer behaviors, the more the corporations have to shift. The more the corporations and cells have to shift, the more legislation eventually needs to change. So I used to, as a child, think, funding the arts. Why we find it's just the arts is just fun and games, but actually it is the voice of a population which leads to change. So for me, I don't want to see artists suffer. I don't want us to go through the shit I've had to go through, that most of us go through as independent artists. You can't make money selling music anymore. You pour your heart and soul into songs. That's not what's getting you paid. You have to go be a fucking clown online and do a bunch of extra shit. No. So how can you allow musicians to live at peace, to create good art, to be able to be financially stable? And so I want to help people do that.
Technology is always driving change, huge catastrophic change for so many industries. Right. And, with the cusp of Nap spurring that changing, she's right. Specific to musicians, they're trying to find ways. And the stopgap has been live music, have been going out and performing, selling a ticket and doing that. And that has kicked the shit out of a lot of artists with COVID. So I think that's a lot of what's driving NFTs and people trying to figure out a way for musicians to monetize this as well.
Tat has teamed up with this awesome person, D, who's become really, I've truly enjoyed getting to learn. She comes from the tech world. And the tech world, she was wondering, why aren't artists why can't they make money off of their art? And D's like, we need to help build this community where artists can start benefiting for themselves more direct and not have so many middle people involved in their lives. So it's been interesting how they're looking at this new technology. And NFT is only part of it. It's evolving in so many ways. They're starting to collaborate and spread the word on this.
I genuinely believe that if we're going to sort of transform the world the way that I think is possible, and the time is now, we're already late, that if you don't have artists and creators and musicians do it first. So the movie makers and the content creators, they do it, but usually music leads because of the time to creation and how emotive it is. And so if we don't help that industry at large, then we have no chance of the technology like Google saying do no harm or Facebook wanting to connect the world. I don't believe them, but they have no hope at those purposes if we actually don't power the creatives. And I think music is the kind of the tip of the spear of that, to actually, the saying of genuinely saving the world.
I think there's a movement of people that are kind of going, wait, there's better ways to do things.
It's more complex for me to understand how this is going to apply with music. I think going back to what we heard in the last episode of specific bands, specific artists fighting their tribe, finding that group to help them sustain and support them.
Tat's been trying to start bridging and figuring that out herself.
The focus for artists is very much on making it as opposed to making money. And so the consistent feeling that we're in is obviously we want to go on tour, but we have to pay for tours. We want to make merch. We have to pay for merch. And then we have to sell the merch. And then we have to do online ads. And so it's a whole world of, having to make money just to spend it again. And I was like, okay, well, there's the 1,000 fan model, which is obviously, you have 1,000 fans. And if you have 1,000 true fans and they pay $100 on merch or shows a year, you can generate $100,000. And so I kind of shifted my thinking from, making it to making money, but also building a sustainable business. So that's kind of how I'd been approaching it was, all right, things have to be sustainable because I want to be happy. And so it was great when we're on tour. It's great when we're doing Warped Tour and we're selling loads of merch. But between when we're making records and you want to spend an entire year focused in the studio and you're not on tour selling merch, still has to be sustainable. And so I do soundtracks for movies and jingles, and that's a great way for artists to generate income. But not all artists are aware of it. Not all artists do it. And then you think about online sales. And so there's so many avenues. And then NFTs popped in.
It's just kind of interesting how it's evolving and how Dee and Tat are starting to look at Tat's career and adjusting some of these new things into her career at this point.
If you look at anyone, if you look at fucking people selling hats, candles, ClickFunnels, podcasts, the fundamental thing that I think, because we spend so much time and energy making music, and that is the value add, right? It's like, here is the song. I've poured my heart and soul into it. Isn't this enough, right? Are you not entertained? It's like, fuck no. The fans are like, no, we want more. So the point is that we can actually create value. You have people doing courses online where they give you free course after free course after free course, and you get value, and you love it, and you keep going back because you're learning from these people. I have a whole TikTok where I'm just educating people on crypto at TDM Crypto. So it's Tatiana DeMaria Crypto. And yeah, like you were saying, why? Obviously helping everybody get involved, but actually crypto is a complicated space and we're very early. So what's cool is the earlier you get in, the more opportunity you have, obviously, to make bank, to create wonderful things, to be part of this new growing tech, which is like being early in the internet. But it's so complicated, a lot of people are not understanding how to participate. So the whole point was wanting to empower people to make money, to mint NFTs, to, you know, to have more financial freedom, and crypto does that in a lot of ways. I'd started just the beginning of the year thinking, fuck, I'm tired of being at dinner parties explaining it to people, but I want people to get involved. So I started a TikTok just answering the basic questions so people can buy crypto, get involved, learn to NFT stuff. We don't have to keep everything so close to the chest, right? It's about, now we're in a world of identity. Now we're in a world of everything being democratized. And to me, it's very much about people. So I can give you crypto information for free, and it's about building trust. So at that point, I'm building a community now.
It's more than just taking a PDF of something and selling it. It's starting to, how is it going to adjust to the music business? And is it going to, you know, you even see it with like Cameo now. Cameo went from those little cameos where you called wish people birthday to where people are writing personal songs. That song will belong to you, a unique song created for you.
As long as you identify it with some type of blockchain technology.
Yeah, it becomes that person's song. It's a balance because we always talk about the good of technology and the bad of technology. And Dee brought something up in the next clip.
The technology that was out there that was centered around music, to me, also being a marketer, it felt like it was exploiting and using the artists to actually grow their tech company versus building a tech company that is for the artists to have a sustainable career so they can add more value to the world.
If we were to imagine an NFT as an album for a musician, how does that sit? How does that value sustain? Will those albums just end up like NFTs in the attic of someone's house that gets dusted off and resold? How does that work?
Well, I think you're going to start seeing, and I see it, some companies being formed now where we had crowdfunding.
Right.
We had crowdfunding for artists. Would crowdfund. But what do you get for crowdfunding? They would maybe get, you know, a signed T-shirt or a signed thing like this. Well, now people are thinking like, oh, we're going to create a digital collection that you'll be able to invest in that artist. Okay, let's say that artist is a large artist that's supporting this artist. The large artist captures his community to support something he's working on. So all of a sudden, you're almost like a mini business partner with that artist.
Right.
That funding, that person gets a bit of a collectible on that original investment.
That value increases.
The value increases on that
asset.
Because it's a collectible based on maybe the larger that's
well, just like anything. So if I get a signed album from Kiss from 1979, that album's going to be more valuable.
Exactly.
Later.
Harry Styles decides like he wants to support this younger artist, and he's going to release a collectible that they're going to use to market and build this artist up. How many people would line up to be say, like, I'm in business with Harry Styles? I've enjoyed sitting here and listening, just putting people together and listen. Why did Dee and Tat, really get together?
So we got together and we've been working on tech and using that and elaborating and kind of working on an entire setup where musicians can do two things. Number one, not have to do all the nitty gritty shit every day that just makes them entrepreneurs where they're weighed down and they can't create. And the second thing is actually, instead of thinking there's a whole world out there of people that might buy my music one day, it's I have fans now, how can I nurture them? And how can I tap into my community? So currently, what's very interesting is you have NFTs have come out. And what you'll hear a lot of people say is, we want to make NFTs. We're going to make pictures of our things. We're just going to make 50 pictures. We're going to, change the colors on them, and then we're going to sell them for ETH, and that's going to be cool. And so many people are thinking like that. And I've actually spent the last year consulting companies, legal and artists on NFTs precisely for that reason. Because it's not about just making something that's digital that people can buy. It's about connecting to your community and having, for me, the most successful NFT projects are the ones where the artist knows their community and is creating something of value to their community that's unique, that their community is going to really enjoy.
To learn more about this, Tony, if people are interested, this TikTok series she's ran is trying to simplify these things as they come out. And if if people really want to follow, they would follow it at TDM Crypto for little more tidbits, and it helps us understand a little bit more as it's coming out.
I'm really feeling my role here. I still am asking questions of you and listening to this conversation. I'm still probably like some people in the audience not understanding. So their vision, Tat's vision, and Dee's vision, specifically, what are they talking about for a music artist? I would like to see a sample of what has been sold as a successful NFT for a music artist and what they're driving for it.
Why it works is if, when he sells this NFT, let's say he sells this NFT, and I think it sold already, the Pep Williams one he just did.
No shit.
Yeah, so he did that, but he included like a day of skating in Venice to go through all the old Dogtown stuff, an afternoon hanging out, getting to meet all the old Dogtown people. Kaves' thing, he had the community as a thank you at the restaurant that, for any of the collectors all came.
Right.
So that's the problem. It's like, are there successes? Yeah, there's little, but it's how are you going to take it from the 10% to the 90%? And that's where we're at. The transition of someone I only have $50, but I want to invest in something.
That value that we talked about with tickets, like we did when we were kids, every concert that we went to in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we kept those ticket stubs and we showed them proudly on our wall. And that was valuable. If I could spend $50 on the ticket stub for a concert that I went to in the 80s, that actual ticket that I had, I'd pay $50 today to have that back. That I see as value. And that's where I think that this NFT for music artists should, somewhere in that vein. That makes sense to me.
Well, you'll create your digital scrapbook is basically, that's what you're going to.
I think that's right. Like we build a digital scrapbook on Facebook, but this particular scrapbook item is attached specific to the artist, only unique to me. There's where I see value. Am I going to spend $3 million on it? No, but that's perception. If I were a billionaire, maybe.
Well, right now it's a toy for the billionaire. People have too much money. There's too much money in a small group of people's hands. But that now is being looked at as how do you go to the other 90% of the people and they could be involved in this, and that's where I'm saying it's going to come down to like artists to support. It's basically a new force of crowdsourcing.
It's a matter of time somebody figures out a niche and is smart enough to understand what is perceived value to people and what they're willing to reach in their pocket for.
And that's where these companies are starting to look. Okay, it's working in like the art space. It's working here. And literally, we're just talking in the last couple months, have people started to explore like the music space.
I knew a little bit about a NFT, like what it was and everything. But it was more art driven or digital or graffiti, because a lot of the graffiti artists and painters tend to be more a success in that field because they already have a fan base. So it's like, I said, all right, cool, that's great. And then when I had a chance to hook up with Jesse and Sean over Medium, they're all, hey, let's like do something together, because I knew Jesse from Adidas, because I did a lot with them. So I said, if I do something, what would be cool? And so I said, let's just try like the Jay Adams thing, but I want to do it with his son attached to it. So he'll always get something from his son.
People they don't want physical things. They want experiences in many ways. So I'm starting to see this kind of bridge of like, all right, this technology and then experiences. And I think Pep blended it very well on what he did with this drop.
Basically, we're just going to hang out at the beach, man. Like we're going to skate. If you can't skate, we can rent a bike. We'll just cruise and just meet all the skaters down there, hang out where like Jay used to ride, the places he used to go eat. And we'll bump into so many of the old guys down there, and they're still there. We'll see Jesse Martinez for sure, like a bunch of guys at the park. But the most important is for that person to feel that energy from the beach alone, and then why it was a tight community of us coming up, being in Dogtown or whatever. It was just a cool energy.
Tangible, like music thing it's getting there. It's getting there, but it's learning what's been successful in other communities and how to transfer that over to music. Music, we're starting to see them. It's like, some of the DJs have been having very successful drops. They've been doing very well, but we'll see. And then I went back to talk to Matt about kind of this evolution with Kaves. And then I listened to Pep, and I'm starting to see a pattern here of what people are looking at and how we can take that into the music space. Matt is one of the partners at Doodle Labs. And, and that's where I've kind of been, Tony. He's just talking to people who have had success in different areas and trying to transfer that into where it's going to be successful for the everyday artist and musician.
Doodle Labs is an art-based NFT platform where we're working to bring real-world physical artists and brands to the blockchain via generative algorithmic art. Our platform is powered by Artblocks, who's a leader in the space. And everything we do on our site is generative. So it means we work with an artist and we input their traits into an algorithm, and it spits out a unique one-of-one piece of art.
That's even another level of how they come up with the finalized product.
Right now, we talk about, there's a lot of money. We hear about these things, but I really believe, Tony, it's going to transfer to the everyday person, and it's getting there. Is it going to be a fad? Some people say. I think the concept of the original thought that it was a pyramid scheme, I don't really think it's that, but will this become an everyday thing?
Well, it really has to do with understanding and figuring out its final potential. Like any new technology that comes out, whether it's a cell phone or the internet or whatever, I'm not saying that this is going to transcend to that, but certainly blockchain and identifying digital assets is going to be able to transcend through every industry.
Community. And that's kind of what I always focused on Warped. How do you hyper service that community and not care about what everyone else was doing? Every time we worried about what something else was doing, it didn't really work for us. Just focus on your community, whether it was getting cheaper water and free water tanks, opening the doors early, all these things. Just focus on that community. And it worked for us. Didn't work for everyone else. But I think that's what they're starting to look at. And Matt kind of, went down that path of what they're looking at in the long run.
There's a lot of money being made and had in NFTs, but it's a lot more than that. Communities are being built and stories are being told. And I think when you look at the physical art world space, there's so many barriers between artists and collectors that a lot gets lost. And we were able to build this up with Mr. Kaves. We have a Discord server with close to 10,000 people in it that Mr. Kaves drops in and talks to his collectors one-to-one. You're able to eliminate the brokers, the galleries, all the middle pieces in between to let his story be told. And I think that was a big part of the success.
Replace that with eliminate the brokers and the galleries with the record labels and things such as that.
Take it easy. You're talking blasphemy here. You might get us shut out.
I'm just saying that, don't get me wrong, labels are not shaking at this point, but thinking about what happens here if this does catch on.
Everything. Disruptive technology has always been a thing. Always. And you have to get ahead of that.
It's not like you just throw them up and you don't keep engaging. And that's what Kaves has done. And goes back to like what Pep's doing, riding bikes around Venice with those people that are part of his community.
Right. Or what Tat is doing with her fan base. I think on a smaller scale, unless you're like the most famous artist in the world and there's somebody with crazy money that's going to buy an NFT, they're talking about consistently building a fan base and keeping it going. Otherwise, your NFTs devalue.
So you said fan club. This could replace that traditional fan club. You're kind of going into this fan base. You're going into this fan community. You have access to special things. So if with that NFT now, I'm hearing kind of going to bridge in music, you're going to have access to maybe early ticket sales, Maybe you're going to have a specific meet and greet. Or as Kaves did, let's hear what he did after his drop.
Kaves restaurant's really good. I love that. I love it. The Brooklyn Firefly. And like you said, we threw a party for collectors there that first week, kind of like a celebration for everyone who bought the family mooks. It was NFT NYC week in New York, so it like coincided. There were people from around the country, around the world even, that were in town and able to come to his restaurant, meet him. And it's like this world of NFTs. It's building communities. I think, like you said, like you did with the Vans Warped Tour, that you were ahead of the game, and now we're kind of catching up.
Ahead of the game as always, Tony.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it's like the old conversation. This avenue of generating revenue and selling digital assets as NFTs is it opens up conversations for many people to figure out how to create their own, much like an application. Remember when everybody had to have their own app and they thought, what kind of app can I create that I can put out there? I can have people download and use and monetize. I think the same conversations are going to be had about NFTs and creating art for that particular space. People are going to just have to figure it out.
And for me, Tony, it goes back to 1999. When I was told I was going to live in first .com era, I was sitting in rooms and these people would go, Kevin, you're going to live in a virtual world. It's going to be called Warped World. And you're going to have concerts and you're going to have merch stores and you're just going to live in this virtual world and create it. And literally I'd sit in rooms with people and I wasn't grasping it because I'm like, you got to sweat in the parking lot.
Oh,
you got to go.
Happening now on Rec Room and Oculus.
But it's totally happening.
Diego's doing. He's building a whole concert stage where they have thousands of people come and listen to it.
It was kind of, this is what I'm seeing is that evolution. A lot of evolution doesn't. Disruptive technology usually it takes a moment. The first technology gets a little like, wow. Like I remember that crypto doodle, it's like, whoa, what are we going to do? Like, what's all blockchain? Woo. Everyone's expert in blockchain. Like you said, that thing. And,
who wants to have that conversation again? I'm good. Thanks. I'm good.
And now this is where it's at. So if I thought it was like worth seeing, and for me, it just goes back to being stoked when I hear my friends like, old punkers and old people like they're figuring it out.
Going to figure it out.
And they're going to hopefully be able to capitalize. It doesn't have to be the most well-known people. It's building that community, and we see where we go. The band of the week is this band that's been around a little while now, but really seems to catch on. I always thought they had a lot of talent. They've been putting out some new music. They're called Mom Jeans.
Mom Jeans.
And they've been around, but now, I mean, they've really written some new songs, and they're out there on tour right now, doing some great numbers and everything.
Text, I throw my phone across the room. I'm all alone. I promised you I wouldn't cry, but voicemail doesn't show my eyes. Eventually I'll ring you up, break down again, you'll call my bluff. I'm making things so difficult. You wish that I'd just go to sleep, but no.
So I know you're so happy that this episode's over.
No, I am. And I want to tell everybody, too, that this is so great to do this show here at Kevin's house. We've just shot a television show here. It was amazing. We've brought the barbecue back. And look, I'm looking over down at the back of the house. We're over by the pool. Look who just rolled in.
Yeah, Kaves and Brooklyn Pete.
Right on. I understand. It's Sunday morning. We're going to hit breakfast. It's wonderful to have them here. So I want to thank Beata's here too. What
are you doing over there, Beata? Did you sleep out there by the pool last night?
Xavier Bradley, thank you to our producer.
Yeah, and Vivian, we know you're out there somewhere in the virtual world.
That's right. And Diego's probably having a Rec Room virtual concert right now for thousands of kids to come listen to him play.
So take it away, Diego.
Woo-hoo!